Hi guys, in this video we are going to implement the load more button functionality. So to be more precise, let's take a look at exactly what we are going to create. I'm going to reload the page right now. For a second we saw a spinner and then we got the first 3 posts. Once I press the load more button, we see a spinner for a half a second and we see the next 3 posts. So we see post 4, 5 and 6. And once I press it again, we see post 7 and a notification that there are no more posts to load. So yeah, without further ado, let's get started. Alright guys, so before we actually get started, let's take a look at what have I done so far. So I created a brand new project called loader_proj, and I'm currently in the settings.py file inside of this loader_proj directory. And first of all, let's take a look at the installed apps list because it has been extended by posts. So this is an application that has been created for this particular project, and we will do some work over here very soon. Then if we scroll down, we have also templates, and yeah, according to the settings over here, in the base directory, I created a templates directory, so it's right over here. And inside I place base HTML. So this base HTML file is the template that other templates will inherit from. In our case, we have only one HTML file, and this is main HTML. So you will see that this main HTML inherits from base HTML in just a second. Then if we scroll down, we also have some settings for the static files. In the base directory, I also created a static folder. And over here, I place a favorite icon, a main.js, which only has a console log hello world, so we can actually see if everything is working, and an empty style CSS. So actually, this is it for the settings.py file. Let's take a look at now the URLs. Here we have included the settings for the static files in the URL patterns, and we also registered one path for the home view, and the home view is a view defined in the posts application, which we will change, which we will actually ignore, but for now it's like this. So if we go to the browser, we have hello world and hello world in the console, because if we take a look at our views, first of all, we have an ordinary home view, which is a function view, which is related to this main HTML file in the post application folder. And in the main HTML, we have a block content because we are inheriting from base HTML, and we just placed hello world. All right, so yeah, I think this is actually it. So we can begin coding. So what we need to do is to head over to the post application folder and find models.py file. And first of all, let's create a class called post, which will inherit from models.model. And we will create 3 fields. The first one will be name, and this is going to be a models char field with the max length, let's say 200. And the next one is going to be the body. So this is going to be a models text field. And let's also add created. And this is going to be models date time field. Auto now add is equal to true. All right. And finally, let's add a string representation. So over here, let's return str self pk. Okay, so now what we need to do is save this, register this class in our admin. So we need to import this model from .models. We want to import post, and then admin site register post. And yeah, before we proceed, let's stop the server from running. Python manage py make migrations, Python manage py migrate, and Python manage py run server. So I already created a super user, and I'm already logged into the Django admin. So now if I refresh the page, I should see the post application. So there it is. And yeah, what we need to do right now is to create 7 posts, at least 7 posts. Okay, so I'm just going to put in post 1 and then post description 1, and I'm going to speed things up, and yeah, we will see each other after creating 7 posts. Alright guys, so I created 7 posts, and right now what we can do is to go to the views.py file, because we will do some changes over here. So first of all, what I'm going to do is to import from Django views generic. We are going to import the view, which is a base class for class views, and template view. All right, so I'm going to comment out this home view, and we will have, first of all, a class which is going to be, let's say, main view, and this will inherit from the template view, and here we will just provide the template name, which is going to be posts main HTML. And then let's define a class which we will call post JSON list view, and this will inherit from view. And here let's put in get method with self args and keyword args. And for now I'm going to put in pass. So let's put in those views in our URL patterns, and we are going to do it directly in the loader project. So over here, we don't need home view anymore. We want to import main view and post JSON list view. So this main view is going to be this main path. It's going to be related to the main path, and I'm going to change this to main view. And below we will have, let's say, posts JSON, something like this. And this is going to be post JSON list view as view, and the name, let's put in post JSON view. All right. So now we can actually save this, and I think we can come back into the views.py for just a second. So what I'm going to do is to define a variable called posts, and this is going to be, well, first of all, let's import also our post models. So from .models we want to import posts, and here what I'm going to do is to put in post objects, and I want to return a JSON response at the end, so I can't actually serialize a query set. So what I'm going to do is to put in values, and I'm going to put it in a list. So posts is going to be equal to the list, and here I will have post object values. Okay. And then, as mentioned before, we want to return a JSON response. So from Django HTTP, we want to import JSON response. So let's return JSON response, where the data is going to be the posts, okay? And then after a comma, let's add save is equal to false. I'm going to save this, and I'm going to check the URL. What was the path? Post JSON. All right, so let's see if this is working. I'm going to add this posts JSON, and here are our posts, okay? So now what we want to do is to grab these data and display them in the console over here, okay? So in order to do that, we need to jump into our main.js, and over here we are going to use the jQuery AJAX. So I'm going to put in AJAX, and we need to specify the type. So the type is going to be get, and then we need to put in the URL. So let's put in posts JSON like this, and we need to define what will happen on success. So let's put in function which takes in a response, and simply let's just console log the response. All right, and then if something goes wrong, let's have an error, which will be a function which takes in an error, and here we will simply also console log the error. All right, so now I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and nothing seems to work. I'm going to press Command-Shift-R, and then over here we have a data. So as you can see, I have over here data, and inside this data I have seven objects, so 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. And for this to be a little bit more clearer, let's access the data directly. So as you can see in the views, we are returning data. So in the main HTML, main.js, let's console log response data and refresh, and here is our array of 7 objects. Okay, so now what we can do is to store this response data in a variable called data. So this const data will be equal to response data, and on this data variable we can perform the map method, where we will grab a single post and console log the post ID for now. So I'm just going to comment out this console log. I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and we have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7. Okay, this is more readable, because right now what we need to do is to think about a solution for displaying only 3 posts. And then we will worry about displaying another 3 posts on a button click. And then if we click it again, we should see another 3 posts. However, we have only 7, so we should see the 7th post and some kind of a notification that there are no more posts to load. So let's begin by creating a variable which will be a let, because it will change over time, and the initial value will be 3. Okay, so we have this visible 3. So as the next step, we can perform a trick. Let's change this to backticks, and over here I'm going to inject this visible. Okay, so I'm going to put in visible like this, and over here we have some kind of an integer right now. So what we need to do is to actually go back to our urls.py file over here, and let's add something over here. So I'm going to put in int, and this I'm just going to put in num posts. All right, so as the next step, I'm going to go to our views, and I'm going to print out keyword arguments. We'll see what we have over here. And now I'm going to save this, hit refresh. We still see 7 posts because we didn't change the logic actually, but let's take a look at keyword arguments. Here we have num posts 3. All right, so what we actually can do back in the posts, we can set some boundaries. So for example, we should set boundaries that we can call upper and lower. And the upper is going to be keyword arguments get, and we want to get the number of posts. All right. So in this case, it will be, in the initial state, it will be 3. And the lower is going to be simply this upper minus 3. So upper minus 3, because we want to load 3 posts at a time. So this is going to be the initial state. So we will have 3 for the upper boundary and 0 for the lower one. And then if we decide to go over here, actually, let's go inside this parentheses, we can simply display posts from the lower boundary, which is 0, to the upper, which is 3. Okay, so yeah, I'm going to put in lower and over here upper. All right, so I'm going to save this, and to show you that this is working, what I'm going to do is to go back to our main.js, and I'm going to change this visible manually for now to 6. So let's see what is happening. We have 4, 5, 6, only 3 posts from 4, 5, 6 because of the logic that we implemented over here. So if I go back to main.js and change it to 3, we should see the first 3 posts. 1, 2, and 3. Okay, so right now we know that we need to run this more than once. We need to run it initially, and then every time a button is clicked. But actually we don't have any button, so let's go to main HTML and do some work in our template. So what I'm going to do is to create a div with a class of, actually it's going to be an ID, and here I'm just going to put in posts box and close it off. And below we will also add a spinner later, so I'm going to put in div ID is equal to spinner box, and I'm going to close it off as well. And then we will have a loading box, and in the loading box we will simply have this load more button. Okay, so I'm just going to identify this div as loading box. I'm going to close it off, but I'm going to put immediately a button over here, so it will be button with a class equal to, let's make this button a blue button, so it will be btn primary, and the ID is going to be load btn, and then I'm going to put in load more and close up the button. All right, so now I'm going to save this, hit refresh, and here we see only load more. Okay, so let's actually put those boxes into JavaScript. Let's grab those elements. So first of all, I'm going to go over here below the hello world, and I'm going to create a new constant, which I will name posts box, and this is going to be document get element by ID posts box, and below I'm going to grab the spinner box document get element by ID spinner box like this, and we'll have a load button. So load btn is going to be equal document get element by ID load btn, and then the loading box, so const loading, or I'm just going to name it load box, And here I missed a T, const load box, and this is going to be document get element by ID loading box. Okay, so now we need to add a event listener on this load btn. Okay, so I'm going to go over here and I'm going to put in load, not the box, but load btn, and we want to add an event listener with a click, and this will do something. So first of all, we want to increase the visible that we defined over here by 3, and then we want to run this code. So let's put this code into a function. I'm going to name it as const handle get data, something like this. And I'm just going to copy this, actually cut it and put it inside. So right now we want to run this handle get data initially, so I'm going to put it over here, but also once the load button is pressed. So I'm going to also put it over here. And let's see if this will work in the console. So I'm going to refresh, load more, and visible is not defined at HTML button element. Here we have visible plus equal 3, so we should be extending this visible variable over here, and we missed an I, and this is the issue. So I'm going to save this, refresh, and now we have visible is not defined, and this is because it should be corrected over here as well, visible. All right, so hopefully now it will work. We have 1, 2, 3. Let's press load more. We have 4, 5, 6, and then load more, and we have 7. So over here, we loaded all the posts in the console, and in a second we will do it in our template, but in the browser. But yeah, before we actually do this, let's also have a confirmation that there are no more posts to load. So in order to do that, we need to pass in something else. So let's go to the views, and below the posts, what I'm going to do is to define a new variable called post size, and this is going to be the length of posts objects all, like this. So we have the length of the post objects all, and right now we can create a variable called size, and this is going to be true if the upper is greater or equal the post size, and in other case it will return false. And then over here we can return as max the size. Okay, so let's take a look at how this looks like. So I'm going to head back to our main.js, and I'm actually going to console log not the response data, but response max. And I'm going to save this, hit refresh. We have false. Maybe I'll make this a little bit bigger so you can actually see. So we have false, and then load more. We still have false, but then if we press it again, we have true. Okay, so this means that we can actually, in the success block, add a condition. If we first of all maybe define this variable, so what I'm going to do is to store this response max in a variable called max size, and this max size is going to be response max, and I'm going to console log. I'm going to comment out this console log, and here I'm just going to put in if max size, And if this is the case, we want to console log done for now, because we are doing all the work right now in the console. So let's refresh, load more, done. Okay, everything is working. So right now we need to bring in the logic so that we can actually see this and more in the browser above the load more button. So the first thing that I'm going to do is to actually go to style CSS and add a class not visible, and we'll need this class for the spinner. And here I'm just going to put in display, and I'm going to set it to none. Okay, and as the next step, what I'm going to do is to actually go to our main HTML, where in the spinner box, I'm actually going to add a spinner. So what we need to do is to go to getbootstrap.com and find a spinner. So I'm in getbootstrap.com, and I'm going to put in spinner in the search, and as you can see, we have some options, and we've done this in a separate video on my channel, how to add spinner to a Django project. But in case if you didn't see it, we'll do it one more time. And let's get rid of this span. And yeah, now we should actually see a spinner. Okay, so I'm going to close this page. I'm going to hit refresh, and now we see a spinner all the time. But if we add a class equal to not visible, let's save this. Let's clear the cache, and the spinner is gone. So now we need to manipulate with this not visible class. So once we should remove it and add it, okay? And we will play around with this in the main.js. So let's return to main.js, and over here, let's begin by referring to the spinner box. And what we are going to do is to put in class list remove not visible. So we are going to see actually this spinner right here. But then let's stimulate some real conditions. I'm going to put in set timeout, and after, let's say, half a second, some code that we are going to put over here is going to be executed. So maybe first of all, let's bring this data map over here inside. So after half seconds, we should see in the console the post ID, and let's make the spinner disappear. So maybe let's grab this spinner box, put it inside the set timeout, and after half a second, we want to add a class not visible. So we want the spinner box simply to disappear. And I made a typo over here, visible. All right, so let's see if this will work. I'm going to hit refresh. We see a spinner, and it's gone. And now let's do it again, but let's focus on what's displayed in the console. So I'm going to refresh. After half seconds, we see 1, 2, 3. Let's press load more, spinner, and after half a second, we see 4, 5, 6. Load more, spinner, and then we see done in the 7th post. Okay, so yeah, what we will do now is to refer to our posts box. Okay, so let's go inside the data map where we are looping through every post, and below the console log, let's refer to the post box where we will access the inner HTML, and we are going to add some code over there. So again, we will use backticks because we will need to inject some code. And I'm going to put in div class is equal to card, and I'm going to put padding 3 and margin top 3 and margin bottom 3. And I'm going to close off the div. Okay, and inside, what I'm going to do is to inject, first of all, the post name, and then after a break line, I'm going to inject the post body. All right. So hopefully this will work for the posts, but if we are already here, let's take a look at this this part, if max size, and here we will reference the not load btn but the load box, and we will access inner HTML, and here I'm just going to put in h4, and let's put in something like no more posts to load. Let's see how this works out. I'm going to hit refresh, and nothing happened. We still don't see the results in the browser. We see it only in the console. So let's see what is wrong, what we are doing wrong. I'm going to actually console log the posts box. Let's see. Okay, we have it over here, but the posts aren't appearing. Okay, over here we have no more posts to load, so this part is working, but this one for some reason is not. So post box plus div with a class of card. Okay, let's close it off over here. I forgot about the quotation mark, and let's see if this was the problem. So I'm going to refresh, and there it is. So we have post 1, 2, 3, load more, spinner, post 4, 5, 6, load more, and then we have post 7. However, no more posts to load appeared a little bit too early. So in order to change this, what I'm going to do is to bring in this if max size inside of here. So now let's try it one more time. Load more, and there it is. No more posts to load. So this is working the way I want it to work. Let's try it out again. Load more, yeah. All right, guys, so I think we can finish off over here, and the source code will be available on GitHub. If you are new here, please consider subscribing to the channel and hitting that notification bell. And hopefully we will see each other in another video, in another tutorial. Hope you guys have a great day. See you soon, and bye-bye.